I'm gonna go to Israel and see how many rosary mysteries in real life I can go to. Getting to all the spots is gonna require me to cross borders, walk miles. I don't even know if it's possible, honestly. But we gotta do it for Mama Mary, okay? So I hopped on a plane and made my way to Israel. This video is only made possible truthfully. The first rosary mystery we're going to is arguably the most important. Look how beautiful this is. They're getting everything ready for Christmas. Now we're walking into the most important spot for Christians. Literally millions of people have walked into this church. And this is the Church of the Holy Sepulcher, where Jesus was crucified, buried, and rose again from the dead. And in front of me was where Jesus' body was anointed after he was crucified. And now I'm about to show you the exact spot where he was crucified. As you can see, we're walking upwards because this was the hill of Golgotha where he carried up his cross. Now we're about to actually touch where Jesus was crucified, the rock upon it was laid. As we waited in line, you could get a better look at the chapel where Mama Mary was waiting nearby, just like she was near Jesus on the cross. One thing that always surprised me about where Jesus was crucified is that I always imagined it being on top of some grassy hill. Now there's a church nearby, and it's surprisingly not as tall as I would have thought. This is one of the many examples of how we think something is very different from how it actually is. And at the end, stay tuned for my favorite rosary mystery. Another thing is that nearby you can see Mary weeping because, like, literally, she was the mom of Jesus. Like, can you imagine being a mom and knowing that your son can be innocently ended? It would destroy anybody, but she knew it had to be done. But shortly after being crucified, this shows what's happened next. Then his body was laid here to be anointed, and eventually his body was carried into the tomb. And this right here is the tomb. So now we're actually going to go inside of the tomb. This place always has such a powerful spiritual feeling, and it just consumes you. It's so overwhelming. And so this was the chapel built over the tomb. So as we go to our next mystery location, we're actually walking down another location. This is the Via Dolorosa, or the Way of the Cross, where tradition believes that this is the exact path that Jesus carried his cross through. I mean, imagine like the pain he was feeling, all the suffering. That's what I like to think about when I'm praying this mystery, and that I too, like Jesus calls us to do, can carry my cross. It's kind of crazy because back then, all of these shops would have been full of people jeering him, but now there's just a bunch of shops for people to sell different things. So a lot has changed since then. So even walking along the Way of the Cross, there's many different stations. You know, this is the 5th station of the cross. So every single Friday, they'll actually walk the stations of the cross, like literally, which is so cool. Here, for example, is where Simon of Cyrene, the foreigner, helped Jesus carry his cross. So up ahead is another mystery right here. This is the Ecce Homo Ark. And this is where the crown of thorns was buried in Jesus' head. You can only imagine how painful it must have been. You literally have these rose thorns piercing your head. But steps away was another mystery. Right here is the courtyard where Jesus was condemned, and he was actually whipped brutally. This church remembers that spot. Again, just the unbearable pain. But he did all of this because he loves us. I know that's cliche, but it's true. So we still got to go to where more rosary mysteries happened, including right there, which is the Garden of Gethsemane. But there's a problem. You see, the next place after that is the Ascension of Jesus, which is all the way up there. Yippee! I love walking. Your boy don't got a car, so he's got to walk. I mean, that's what the apostles did. Just saying. Unfortunately, on this trip, I don't have time to literally go on every single rosary mystery, but these are 2 other rosary mysteries I want to show you guys. The first is where Jesus was baptized, and the second is where Jesus was born. Okay, we're about to walk into the Garden of Gethsemane right now, and it's locked. Wait.
Welcome.
Hey, can I go inside?
Yes, where are you from?
America.
Welcome.
Thank you, thank you. So this right here is the Garden of Gethsemane, where Jesus agonized. This stone right here is literally the stone that he suffered so much for our sake that he sweat blood. And these olive trees are likely descendants of the same trees that saw Jesus. And this video would not be possible without Truthfully. They're an app that helps you understand your faith. They're backed by all these different influencers, and they do everything in their power to make sure that all of their answers are guided by the Catholic Church's teachings. I used Truthfully to help research this video. For example, if I were to ask, what's a fun fact about the Garden of Gethsemane? My spelling is so bad. It says here that some of these trees are believed to date back from the time of Jesus, which is a fact that I actually mentioned in the video. But if I wanted to ask it a more controversial question, like, what's the Catholic Church's opinion on gay marriage? It's gonna give me a balanced answer that is guided by scripture and the church's teachings. Honestly, it's pretty simple. Evan has a question, Evan asked it on Truthfully. If you'd like to learn more about Truthfully, you can click the link in the description below. It helps support me, supports my channel and my mission, and it helps support Truthfully, which is an app that I literally use. Okay, so now we're gonna go to the spot where Jesus ascended to heaven, but it's gonna be a little bit of a walk. Just turning into a hiking video now. Also, I know this is unrelated, it might be TMI. I have to use the bathroom. I don't know where the bathroom is. I gotta use the bathroom. Why couldn't have Jesus ascended into heaven somewhere that was like closer to the ground? We are getting closer. You know it's serious when your boy takes the leather jacket off. Right there is where Jesus ascended into heaven. I can't wait to show you guys it. It's kind of crazy. And so surprisingly, the place he ascended to heaven was inside of this Muslim mosque, and it was kind of underwhelming. You know, I would have expected it to be way more decorated than this, but it still was powerful to know that this is where Jesus was. You know what? We're just gonna keep on walking, and we're gonna go where more Rosary mysteries are. Look at that view though. Look at that. That is so cool. This is not a mystery, but this is the path that Jesus rode his donkey down to eventually go to Jerusalem and be crucified. We're just walking and talking, walking and talking. Maybe that should be my new YouTube channel. So behind me is the Temple Mounts. This is another view of it. Basically, it's that golden dome on top. I would love to show you inside of it, but I actually can't show you as only Muslims are allowed inside of the Temple Mounts. But here's where two other Rosary mysteries happens. This is where, gotta move away from the cars. This is where Jesus is presented to the temple as a young child, where a man says that Jesus fulfills the prophecy of Jesus being the Messiah. And this is also where Jesus goes missing for 3 days, and eventually Mary and Joseph are looking around for him, and he eventually tells them, yeah, guys, I've been here at my Father's house. And they're like, oh my gosh. Now we're gonna continue walking to more Rosary mysteries. He's taking the sights. I'm not tired. No, not tired. I'm exhausted. All right, we're gonna show you some other spots really quick. On previous trips to Israel, I went to where he proclaimed the kingdom of God. I went to the mountain where he transfigured to the apostles. I went to the wedding at Cana where he performed his first miracle. And then, of course, I went to where the angel Gabriel told Mary she would have Jesus. Underneath this beautiful church, which shows Mary in all these different countries and cultures, is the room where the angel Gabriel told Mary that she would bear Jesus Christ. And I'm sure she was scared. Who wouldn't be? But she said, I will be a handmaid of the Lord, and said yes. But then I made my way to another Rosary mystery. So this right here is the upper room where the Last Supper happens. It's a lot smaller than I would have thought too. This place is especially important because this is where Jesus spoke the words of consecration and gave us the Eucharist, which we as Catholics believe that every single Sunday transforms into the body and blood of Christ. So this right here is another mystery, Dormition Abbey. As you can see, this is where Mary passed away. So this is where things get a little bit complicated because tradition says that Mary passed away. Like she has a burial chamber here, which I'm about to show you. I went inside the beautiful church and then made my way down to where Mary's body apparently laid. But basically, this spot here remembers the place where she was buried. And then after 3 days, it said that she ascended into heaven, which is painting the pics. And then eventually she goes up into heaven, and she's crowned as Queen of Heaven and Earth, just as it's prophesied in the Bible. You know what's crazy is that I actually used to have a problem praying the Rosary. I grew up Protestant, and a couple of years ago, I converted to Catholicism. And one of my biggest objections to being Catholic was like, I can't pray to Mary, the saints. It's weird. Honestly, that's what I thought. But I remember the first day I prayed a Rosary, it felt like a weight was lifted off my back. So now, every day, I try to pray the Rosary, or at least say a couple of Hail Marys. Now, your boy's not perfect, but I try. And I love my mother, and my biological mom, too. I love both of them. If you'd like to watch the full video of my conversion story, click here, and have a nice day. Peace out.